Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please?
First game of the season ended 1-1, but was it a good performance and result? My thoughts on the new signing, Carlos Hill.
NERevsUK.
All things revolution from a UK perspective.
Hello everybody, my name is Mike and welcome to the NERevsUK podcast, all things revolution from a UK perspective. And we've got a fair bit to fit into today's episode. So we are going to be looking at the fixture, the first MLS fixture for the Revolution of the 2019 season. We took on FC Dallas. We're going to be dissecting that game as well as looking at any news that's been coming out of the club and then looking forward to the game against Columbus along with my predictions on the starting lineups. So, the game against Dallas. Let's just talk about the lineup first of all. The graphic that the Revolution put out over on social media, while I like the graphic in terms of the aesthetics and how it looks and stuff, I still don't understand why we can't get to the point where we're doing the lineup. It gives you no indication. You can kind of work it out, but when you've got Wan and Teal, sometimes you're like, in my head I was thinking, okay, so is that Wan on the right and Teal up top, or is it the other way around? You're never too sure. I mean, I think we can safely say that we're probably going to be playing the 4-2-3-1 formation again this season. But in terms of personnel and when they sit on the pitch, well, as I said, you can kind of work out a lot of it, but some of it, it's sometimes a bit like, if like you've got Diego and Carlos Hill in there, I mean, you can take the assumption that Diego is probably going to be on the right and Carlos Hill will probably be sitting as the attacking central midfielder. But unless we're told otherwise, we don't know until we actually see them take the field. So, but in terms of the actual starting lineup for the Revolution's game against Dallas, I think there was a few surprises in there, definitely for me. I don't know what everyone else's consensus is on the matter, but the biggest one for me was the fact that Brad Knighton got the nod in between the sticks. Now, obviously, we all knew that it was a position that was open for somebody to take. You know, all three of them were battling out. I think they all got good minutes. For me, though, it was between Cody and Matt. It was never really, for me, Brad in contention for that starting spot. I always took it that it was between, I don't know what it was, but my gut feeling was that it was going to be that Cody Cropper got the nod in between the sticks for the first game of the season. Now, Brad's got it and it's his to lose, which is fair enough. You know, he had a decent performance. I wouldn't say it was great. It wasn't bad though either. You know, I think the times he was called upon, he did his best to his ability. I will say his distribution is lacking though. There was some times when I know that the Matt Turner distribution would have got us set in a much better position and we would have kind of got ourselves attacking a lot quicker. So we were missing that. And I don't know what it was, but just something had me thinking that it was going to be Cody Cropper getting the nod in the first game of the season. Now, the biggest take I can take away from this whole thing is, let me just kind of rewind, obviously, to the start of the 2018 season. Again, it was a battle between all three. Cody kind of, you know, had an illness which obviously, you know, wasn't ideal for him. Matt Turner got the nod, and he was putting in some absolutely stunning performances at the start of the 2018 season. So much so that some people were actually, you know, potentially saying he could make the US men's national team. Now, if we go full circle to the 2019 season, and he doesn't even make the bench, he's actually now third choice goalkeeper for the New England Revolution. Third choice. So that's going from first team to potential national men's team call-up to now being third choice. Now, we know that he had, you know, stumbling blocks towards the back of the 2018 season. Brad Knighton then took his opportunity, and maybe that's kind of took into consideration when obviously Brad was making a decision off the back of a good pre-season. And you know, I wouldn't say it was a solid end of the 2018 season for me when making his decision on who would actually be starting in goal. But I just think that I don't know if there's anything other than what we're hearing, but if you fully think about where Matt Turner was, you know, kind of less than I'd probably say 9 months ago with the Revolution, no potential, you know, US men's national team call-up somewhere we're touting around, to the fact now that he can't even make the bench for the Revolution. I don't know. I mean, for me, he didn't do that much wrong in pre-season that led me to think that he'd be third choice. I thought maybe Cody would get the nod, and that then we would see Matt on the bench. But for Matt to be completely ousted from the team and now not even in the 18, just, I don't know, seems really weird. I do apologise for the background noise. My dog, for some reason, is just going absolutely crazy and deciding to have to scratch himself like ridiculous amounts. So I do apologise for any background noises you will hear in today's episode. But I work from home. I don't have a fancy studio or anything like that. So, but back to the things at hand. Starting lineup. We've talked about goalkeepers. I mean, the only other thing that was shocking to me, which kind of has come to fruition why it was there was two other things. The fact that Till Bunbury started on the right, and the fact that it was a midfield pairing of Zahibo and Scott Caldwell. Now, I was, pretty certain that Luis Casado would get a starting role in the Revolution. Now, supposedly his fitness levels weren't there in the last few games of the pre-season, and that's why he started from the bench. So, completely get that one. I'm not too sure what the pairing would have been if it was Scotty drafted in for him or Zahibo. But starting Till Bunbury on the right-hand side for me just never really makes sense. I'm not too sure what the thought process was. While his work rate, yes, is good, and I know we don't understand, we didn't know going into the game fully what the new Dallas manager would be doing in terms of lineup, personnel, that kind of good stuff. But after reviewing the game now, which hindsight is a great thing, they did a really good job of kind of marking Christian Pinier out of the game. Now, I was one of the people on social media who was saying, why aren't we giving Christian Pinier the ball? But then when you actually review and actually look back over the game, I realised why we weren't giving him the ball, because every time he got the ball, he was being doubled up on, which meant he couldn't be as impactful as we kind of wanted him to be. So the only thing that I kind of couldn't understand from that, though, is the fact that while we were being doubled up on Pinier, that should have then left space for maybe Zahibo, Caldwell, or Heel to be. If we're dragging a player out wide, that gives some people a license to somebody in that pitch to space to open to them to exploit, and it didn't seem like that was the case. And I purely think that's because we were just trying so hard to work it down the right, because Pinier was being doubled up on, that it wasn't utilising any space that him being doubled up on would have created, because we were just solely just like, okay, can't really get on the left. We just constantly going around to the right. Now, again, I'm not knocking Till Bunbury at all. I think he's a very useful player. He's a great squad player to have for the Revolution. But I don't think he's best utilised on the right-hand side of the midfield in terms of, I just think he's an impact sub. I think he's a great player to bring on in the 70th minute mark when you've got 20 minutes to go. Teams are tiring slightly. We've been pressing for the whole game. We need a fresh pair of legs. He'll come on, rejuvenate the press, and cause havoc. But I think that game was screaming out for Diego to start on the right side for me. I think if we'd have had Diego, I don't know if it would have been a different result. I think the performance would have been better, because in terms of the result, I was actually pleased going away with a point. I mean, Dallas is a team, you think about this, what was it, 2011, I think, was the last time we actually took anything away from Dallas. And to go on the road in your first game of the season against a very good team, no matter who the manager is, it's a good team. And to get a point, I think, is a good result. On the flip side, the performance wasn't there. Yes, the second half was better. Very cliche, it was a game of two halves, but it was. The second half was a much improved performance from the Revolution. But I don't know. Till Bunbury for me just doesn't sit right on the right hand side. I think he's a striker. I think he's an impact striker, or he could be an impact right winger if the time is right. But I don't think he's a starting player. Obviously, Juan Agudelo got the nod up front, which is something I've been wanting to see for some time now. And I know this is a player who has divided the whole Revolution community over on Twitter, in terms of some people think he had a good game, some people think he had an absolute terrible game. For me, obviously, you can't always judge a striker just on his goal. Yes, he's going to be heavily judged on his goals and what he's putting in front of goal. But he played a good 77 minutes of the match. His pass succession was higher than most Revolution players. We had a very poor pass percentage rate for the whole game. considering, we didn't have a lot of the ball, which means that when you don't have a lot of the ball, your pass success rate has got to be high. Ours was in the 68th percentile with only 212 passes, I think it was, around that time. Dallas had 576 passes, 85% completion, while their possession was higher as well, but it was kept in within their own half, which we're more than happy for teams to have possession in their own half. That's what our high press is built to do, to press teams so they don't come too far into our half. That's fine. Their majority of their passes were in their own half. That's fine as well. But for our passes to be so low and our pass successful percentage to be so low, it isn't ideal. If your passes are low per game, then your pass percentage needs to be high. It's just got to be high. So Wan had a decent time in terms of the fact when he was getting the ball, his layoffs were working more than other players. Obviously, I will say this the only defence I've got for Wan, he wasn't really given the ball in the best places for me. It seemed like he was having to drop deep, which is, I think I've noted quite a lot recently, reviewing games in a bit more depth, that our strikers are having to drop deep to come and get the ball, which isn't ideal. They're strikers, they need to be in and around the box and being available when, it shouldn't be that they're having to drop deep to try and make something happen. That's not their role. You've got three players behind the striker. That's what they should be doing. So yeah, not ideal. I would like to see him give. I don't think he will be. I think we will see Teal up top next game, but I would like to see him given a few more games just to settle in with the players around him. And I've got a feeling. I don't know what it is, but I've got a feeling that he could come good. This lad. I think he's got the ability in him. I think he's a better striker than Teal. Yes, he's not proved it at the moment, but I do think he's got it in his locker, and I do think it is a better option than Teal. With the current roster we've got, I think he's the best option we've got. We've just got to give him a little bit more time, and hopefully things will click into place. Carlos Hill, good debut. I wouldn't say it was great. Obviously, he got a goal, which was good. I do think he was very, effective on the ball. Again, only 77% pass succession though. He was good. He was useful. I think again he'll find his feet. It's a very solid start to his career, but I think there's things that people were probably thinking he'd do more of. He did get pushed off the ball a little bit too easy for me in some aspects. But yeah, I think he's going to come good, isn't he? I think we can all see that there's something there with him. But he's got that little bit extra that we didn't know, that we didn't have on the roster last season, for example. It's a kind of another Christian Pinea for me. Although Christian Pinea did start with a little bit of a... I suppose his first game he got subbed off, didn't he, actually? Remembering rightly now, he got subbed off because we had two players sent off. So that's a positive, isn't it? We've finished a match with 11 players. Again, other players, just to note quickly, obviously, I think Tony did a great job. I think him screaming, I think it was at Zahibo at one point during the 86th minute, I think is around that mark when he was absolutely going crazy because he wasn't closing down his person. Shows he's got that leader quality about him. So I'm not too sure. Mantian's been given the armband, but I'm sure he won't keep Tony quiet. I'm sure he'll be very vocal no matter what. Annie Barber, I think, did a really, really good job coming in late, being called up to the starting 11 with half an hour to go because Michael Mantian's unfortunate injury during warm-up, and hopefully he will be back. I think all signs are pointing toward the fact he will be back for the game against Columbus. But Annie Barber's performance, does he deserve it? He was giving it for a reason, so there's that argument that he was giving it for a reason, so maybe he should get it back. But Annie Barber didn't really do massive amounts wrong, so for me it was, does Mantien deserve his shirt back, really? Let me know in the comment section down below. Castillo, for me, I personally don't think he played as well as what others do, which is great. My opinion's going to differ from yours. I think he was okay, but again, I think him and Boy both were very similar in terms of performance. I think Boy was, again, not great, but I think Castillo was also as bad. He was I just keep seeing him out of position constantly, and then we're having to shift over, and then Zahibo and Caldwell are having to slot back into centre back because Annie Barbar's had to shift over one, which is good. It's good that we're doing that now. That was one positive that I do take for the game, the fact that was happening, but it shouldn't have to be happening so much. I don't know. Going forward and stuff, I think he was effective, but defensively still I'm not 100% sure. I think we can still see more from him, but yeah, overall, as I said, my overall takings from the game was the result was good, the performance isn't there of what we need to be. If we're going to play like that, it's going to be a long season. It was great that we could grind out the result. That is again another positive takeaway from it. But I don't really want to see. I want to see us playing some good football. I want to see us in control, not under as much pressure, and just playing some nice passing of the ball, and a win. Obviously, 3 points is the big thing here. But other than that, as I said, the game for me, the biggest thing to take away is the fact we took a point on the road against Dallas. That's the be all and all. The performances hopefully will come. And the last thing that I'll finish with on this is substitutions, because I was pretty much screaming at the screen when I was watching the match, because I don't get why he leaves it so late in the game. If we're playing for a draw, which I think a lot of us seen that was what was happening towards the end of the game. If you're going to do that, then change it up. Change it so, we're going to definitely lock out this draw now. We're not really pushing on for the win. So see it out, and see it out comfortably, because there's a lot of nervy moments. I don't know if you lot will agree with me, but there's a lot of nervy moments in that game which could have caught us off guard, and I don't know. It was a bit too much touch and go for me towards the end, where I constantly kept thinking, oh God, here comes another attack. And it wasn't dealt with well all the time. I was constantly shouting, clear it, and it wasn't happening. And obviously the players just weren't listening to me for some reason. I don't know if it's something to do with the fact that I live in England and they were playing, in Texas or wherever, I don't know, wherever it was. But it was just like, that he leaves it too late for me. He leaves it too late. The amount of substitutions, I don't know what the ruling was. Some people said that obviously because we had to put any Barba into the starting 11, we lost the substitution. I wouldn't have thought that was the case, but I think other people have confirmed that was the case. I don't get why that was the case. That wouldn't. I don't know. I suppose about the timing it happened. I think it was the time scales actually more than anything. But even if that was the case, so he's used 2 substitutions. They were just too late. They were just too late. It needed to be done quicker. But as I said, we got a point, so we'll move on now. So news coming obviously out of the camp. We've all heard this imminent announcement for the Revolution DP signing, which even by the time you guys hear this might have already happened, and I'm just not aware of it at the moment. And I may be now going, why couldn't I have just waited an extra half an hour and recorded it? So yeah, the imminent signing of this DP player, I will say that I do feel like they've kept it under wraps really, really well, because obviously we noted about the Carlos Sahil thing quite far in advance. So if it isn't Bojan, which that seems to have all gone quiet now anyway, and it isn't Stephen Naismith, they're the only 2 that I can name off the top of my head that have had a bit of noise around them recently. Then they've done a really, really good job of keeping it quiet. Saying that though, I've been told that normally it doesn't happen over in the US. You don't normally kind of get a lot of noise around signings prior to it kind of happening, whereas in the UK we kind of know about it a good few weeks in advance because somebody's leaked it. So that, there's that's we don't know when, and I kind of like their approach that they're trying to find the ideal person rather than just doing it because they're feeling the pressure of the fans. I do like that approach. However, I do just think they just need to be a little bit more better with their communication sometimes. That's all we want as fans. That's all we ask for. Yes, we're more than happy to wait, but as long as you just keep us in the loop and keep us along for the journey, we're more than happy for you to run it as you see fit. You guys are the experts at the end of the day. You're hired to do a job, and if you're not then seen fit to do the job, then hopefully that you will make way, or the team will make the decision to bring in the right person. But we just want to be kept. That's all we're asking as fans. We just want to be kept in the loop, kept up to date as much as So even if there's kind of no movement, just weekly, no movement so far, we're still working hard. I know a lot of stuff that's come out in the wash now, but it seemed like a lot of pressure was coming from us as fans to just tell us, just please update us. Where we are at things. Obviously the Chelsea game as well. We've got the friendly, great cause, obviously. Not ideal timing for both teams, if I'm going to be perfectly honest. We've obviously had to move our game back a day. Chelsea have obviously got a Europa League tie if they get through. So there is that as well. But yeah, it's for a great cause. And I kind of hope both teams, give. It's not always about that game. Isn't about the result, is it? I mean, Chelsea are a far better team for us. They're not going to side name a full strength 11. I do hope they bring some of their big players over with them as well, and I hope we get a good mix of youth and some of the players like Renix, Buchanan, and Jones are giving a run out against some of these Chelsea players. It'll be really interesting to see that game for sure. And I think that's probably about it. Obviously, there's a bit of injury news. Obviously, Andrew Farrell is out. We're not too sure what the extent of his injury is. We're waiting for reports back from the eye doctor. Juan Caicedo, hopefully, he's day-to-day at the moment. He'll be back, hopefully, on the bench against Columbus Crew. And then we've got Mancienne, who seems like he's been given a clean bill of health for the game against Columbus. And then there's nothing really else in terms of news to come out of the camp. So what I did, because I knew there wasn't a lot of news and I kind of couldn't foresee any big news coming out of the camp, I asked you guys for some questions over on social media for me to answer, and you've all come through. I've got quite a fair few, so we're just going to run through these. It's questions to Mike time.
Questions to Mike time.
So these are in no particular order, but we've got the first one coming from at Montras77. He asks, do you agree that the Revs need to move within the confines of Boston so they can be easily accessible for fans by walking public transport? I truly believe they would thrive in such a setting. Now, I'm not an expert with this one. I don't really want to give a massive take on this one because I don't know the full ins and outs and everything to do with it. For me, just looking out from the outside in, I suppose, in a way, it makes sense for it to be in Boston because of, as you said, public transport links. But I don't know enough really to give a full definite answer. So I do apologise on this one, but I don't want to give an answer that without doing enough research into this one, and the time between me asking, you giving the question in and me recording the podcast just doesn't leave me enough time to kind of do enough. My first kind of thought to it makes sense from Boston's got, a lot going on. It's a busy, bustling place, lots of transport links. It's got a lot going for it, but I don't know the demographic of the fan base. I know we sit in lots of different pockets, so I don't know if it's ideal from that point of view, but my first initial take, if you were to ask me without any prior knowledge of anything, was, is Boston the right place for the Revolution to have a stadium itself? Yes. But other than that, I can't really give much take to that. So I do apologise for that one, but that's kind of all I can really say on that matter. We've then got LDHF95, otherwise known as Luke. Mancienne mentioned on the podcast how much better the MLS is than was what he was expecting, but also saying having family here rather than coming home to an empty house after practice was a huge positive for him. And how much could we see this affect his form and the overall defensive stability? Now, I think me being from a Brit looking in at the MLS, I was actually very shocked to see, because you just hear all of these mumblings and reports of that the MLS doesn't have a good quality of football. And that, to be fair, looking back, a very far back, it probably wasn't the best standard. But I think the MLS have done a really, really good job of improving the standard, especially over the last good decade or so. I think they've done a really, really good job of trying to get it to the standard. I would still say now that if you compare the Championship, of the English Premier League system, the English league system against the MLS, I think it's very, very close, and I think there's a few teams that probably would trickle in towards that back end maybe of the Premier League. I think the difference with the MLS and that system, I think you've got certain teams that would be relegation candidates in the Premier League. You've got a good chunk of teams that would be decent Championship, mid-table, bottom tier Championship teams. You've then got some League One teams in there as well, and potentially some League One relegation teams in there as well. So I think the distance between the teams is vaster, considering there's less of them. But I definitely think that it's a massive improvement. So I will agree with him on that one. From the fact that he's now got his family over here, that's got to be huge. From a morale point of view, and from the fact that you've just got someone to come home to that you love and your family's over here with him, that's got to be huge for him as a personal point of view, which I do think will then trickle into his work, because he's going to be far happier going into work every single day. And I think it's going to have a positive impact on the team as a whole, because he's going to be a much happier person, because his home life is happier, which will just have a knock-on effect. So yes, I do think that it could be massive for the team's overall defensive stability. Having all players happy at all times, having a happy camp, is always going to be massively beneficial. And the fact that he's back in training now is a huge plus. But does he get the starting nod ahead of Andy Barbar? Well, that's another question we'll answer later. We've got Reving Mad has asked as well, how do you, as an overseas fan, maintain your level of interest and engagement with the Revolution, especially when there are plenty of other better teams in the MLS? I ask because I've tried finding an EPL team to follow, but honestly I find it hard to really care as much. Which I thought was an absolutely cracking question, so thank you for that one. For me, it was, as I said, the reason why I chose the Revolution was purely because I wanted to move to Maine a few years ago. Obviously, it's just bloody impossible to actually move to America without a sponsorship. So I'm just finding it's just really, really hard. So I don't think it's ever going to happen. And then obviously I just started looking at the sports teams around there, looked at the New England Revolution, watched a few of their games obviously on YouTube and stuff, and started looking at what they put out in terms of content and all that kind of stuff. And I've kind of, it was just like a really good team and fitting for me. I was like, although I do support all of the Boston area teams, if there were, a team that I didn't really like their philosophy and style and, that kind of thing, if they were just didn't really fit in with what I'm about, then I wouldn't have supported them. But, I watched them. They're not, a team with a massive amount of trophies and stuff like that, but that's not what it's about for me. And I think the engagement piece for me was the fact that the fans have just been so supportive. I mean, I've been following the team for longer than I've been on social media and following it that way. I mean, and I just feel so welcomed by you guys. It's just, I can't thank you enough for how welcoming you guys have been. It's just been absolutely huge part of before I supported the team, which was great. It was fun to watch the matches where I could, and I always used to play them on Football Manager and on FIFA. But then when I came on social media, it was just another step forward, because you guys, as I said, have just been absolutely great. And I can understand why you kind of struggle with an EPL team, because the community is so huge, you would just get swamped out. Like when I tweet about the Revolution, I get responses pretty much all the time from fans on their opinions on the matter, and I always get some kind of reaction. When I tweet about Leeds, you just get missed. It's too big. And while I'm a huge Leeds fan before the Revolution, Leeds are my team. It's now definitely close. The gap has closed massively recently. It's very close now. To be fair, it's untrue how much more of a fan of the Revolution I feel now than I would have done 2 years ago. So, which is all down to you guys as well. Massively down to you guys more than anything else. So I kind of get that. It is hard, especially an EPL team. I would say probably look a bit further down, if I'm going to be fully honest. I love the Championship. As much as I want Leeds to get back to the Premier League, I'm going to miss it, because it's such a great league. They have so many good teams. You never know what results are going to come. They have some cracking players, great managers. I just love it. I love the league. Absolutely love it. So I am the biggest thing that I'm going to miss when Leeds get promoted, because it's hopefully should happen this year, is I'm going to miss being in the Championship, because it's a great league, really, really solid league. So that's my tip. Just have a look down a bit further down. Again, the engagement isn't there as much as you'll get from the Revolution. But look in the Championship. Maybe even look at League One, League Two, Conference. You'll get definitely reaction from conference teams. You'll probably get the club following you as well, because that's generally what will happen. There's a lot more in and around that kind of level. League Two, League One, the conference. You'll get a lot more interaction from the actual social media team there as well. So well, thank you for that question. Next question is asked for at Brian Calmer. He asks, what are your thoughts on the Revolution's tactics / shape? Did we need to press much didn't press nearly as much as we saw most of last season, and what everyone was expecting to see. Is Brad evolving as a coach? Now, I think our press was more thought after. I think last season we kind of went really gung ho and just tried to press for the full 90, which if you can do, great. But I don't think that's the right tactic. I think so. From that point of view, I think we pressed better at the right times. The shape, I don't think we've really changed, to be honest. I think we are playing the same system as last year. Carlos has been given a bit more freedom, maybe, than what Diego was given. Diego was kind of maybe a bit more accountable for his position, whereas Carlos seems to have been given a little bit just of a free role, which could be a massive positive. I think it will be. But shape-wise, I think we are still doing the same as what we did last season. The players seem to be given the same roles, apart from Carlos, and yeah, it doesn't seem that different, if I'm going to be perfectly honest. Brad evolving as a coach, I'm still undecided. I still don't know my honest and open thoughts about Brad at the moment. Some days I'm fuming and thinking he's in above his head. Other days I'm thinking, you know what, that's shown that he's learning. So yeah, very hit and miss for me on Brad. I'd say he's took maybe a half step forward from where he was last season. I think it needed to be bigger, but we're only game one into the season, so I can't take too much from that one out so far. I've seen people already asking for De Boer to be gone from Atlanta, which is absolutely insane. This just started the season. Calm the hell down. So yeah, maybe half a step forward, but ask me again in a few more episodes of what my thoughts are on that one. Alex Welsh, a regular and an absolute legend, actually bought me and shipped me a Revolution shirt. He bought me and shipped it to me. Absolute legend. Do I believe that Teal is a better option than right wing than Diego? 90% of the time, 95% of the time, probably no. But I do think there's going to be incidences in a game when Teal is the better option. But I can't see that being the option from the start. If I'm going to be perfectly honest, but there is going to be times when Teal is going to be the better option on the right wing than Diego. But I think from a starting 11 point of view, I think Diego gets the nod 95% of the time. For me, could be different, but it will depend if they're doing their scouting and what the scout's telling them needs to be fed into their starting 11, which is why sometimes we might go, what are you doing? But it would have been something that someone's seen that goes, I think Teal's attributes here outweigh Diego's because of X, Y, and Z. So I think that's why we will see Teal's there sometimes. But for me, I think Diego's abilities outweigh Teal's in a lot more aspects of what he can do on the pitch. So I think it should be more weighted towards Diego starting on the right-hand side. Next question is from the first Randy. He asks, what position do you hope a new elite DP signing is? I mean, there's still a few we really need filling. I think central defensive midfield is one that I would like to see. However, I think we've just got too many players at the moment that can play in that position. So it just seems a bit ridiculous to bring another one in because it means somebody else isn't going to be playing. You're going to be on the salary cap. We're not going to move them on. So as much as I'd like to see that position, I think it'd be a little bit more waste of money. Defensively, I think we need to bring somebody in, but I don't think it should be a DP signing. I think Giles Phillips will do a job there for this season. I think if Mancienne and Tony and Annie Barber are our first three, we still need a depth piece there, which isn't Andrew Farrell. It needs to be Phillips on loan maybe. So the only other area really for me is that attacking third. But where that position should be, I don't know. I would like to say right wing for me. I think we've got Christian Pinnier, great. We've got Carlos Hill, great. We've got Diego at the moment, who's got potential but hasn't shown it over recent seasons. Well, he still had a pretty productive season last season, considering the Revolution didn't play all that well, especially towards the back end. And to be fair, at the moment, I can't say because I want to say striker, but I've not seen anything of Juan Casado to make me think otherwise at the moment. So I'll probably say striker. If you were to ask me for an answer right now, I'll say striker because I haven't seen anything of JFC to make me think otherwise. And the last question goes, why does Brad Friedel hate using the third sub? I don't know. In the first game of the season, I'm not too sure what the actual overall thing was. Did we have that third sub available? Even if we didn't, if you look back historically, I don't know why he doesn't use it. It's there for a reason. Yes, while you don't have to take a player off if they're playing well and everyone's playing well, but there's been at times when we've not been playing well and we've only used 2 subs. I'm like, you've got the 3 subs there for a reason, to make a change on the game, to make an impact, and you're not using them. So my honest answer to that one is I don't know why Brad Friedel just doesn't use his third sub. So that's the questions done. Thank you guys so much. You can leave them over on social media, or get in contact with me on social media. The links are in the description down below, or just comment down below any questions you've got for future podcasts as well. But we're now going to look forward to the game against Columbus.
Prediction time.
Just really quick to wrap today's episode up, because I know this one has been a slightly lengthy one. Just going to run through my predictions on the starting at 11, and then we'll kind of predict the score maybe as well. This is what I think. So we'll go with think we'll play, then we'll go with what I want to see, and then we'll go for predictions of score lines. So what I think we'll play the 4-2-3-1 formation. We'll start with Brad in goal, a defensive from left to right of Castillo, Mancien, Tony and Bai. We'll then have Zahibo and Casido in front of them. Left to right of the attacking third, we'll have Penia, Carlos Hill and Diego Fundungas. And then up top, we'll have Teal Bunbury. That's what I think we'll see. What I would like to see is, I don't really think we should change the goalkeeper. If it's Brad Shirt, it's Brad Shirt's lead, that's fair enough. So we'll start with Knighton in goal, a back 4 of the same Castillo, Mancien, Tony, and it's going to have to be Brandon Bai in front of them. Yep, Zahibo and Casado. Penia on the left, Carlos Hill as the attacking central midfield player, Diego on the right, Renix on the right, and Juan Agudelo up top. That's what I'd like to see. And then I'd like to see Diego brought on for Renix, and then Juan Casado brought on for Juan Agudelo as the 2 main substitutions. And then depending on obviously how the game plays out, I'm not really too sure where the third substitution lies, if I'm going to be honest, because obviously that one's really normally your more big tactical one rather than anything else. So that's kind of how I see us lining up against. It's not really massive. I'll just basically swap Diego out for Renix and Teal out for Juan. Other than that, I think the lineup will be kind of where I kind of would like to see it. Predictions on score lines. I'm actually going to be really bold with this one. I'm going to say it's going to be 3-0. Don't ask me why. Don't ask me where it's come from. It is more of a pie in the sky idea than any data, but I want to see us keep a clean sheet. That's what I want us to do. I really want us to keep a clean sheet. So even if it's 2-0, it would be a massive positive. I think the biggest thing for us in this one is keeping a clean sheet, keeping disciplined, and before, obviously 3 points is vital, but yeah, even if we only score 1, if we discipline's good, keep a clean sheet, that's 2 massive positives. The fact we're at home should help towards that, and I do want to pray to God we'll see a good turnout. So let me know your predictions for the starting 11 and the scoreline in the comment section down below, or over on social media at NERevsUK over on Twitter. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed this episode. If you have, then don't forget to like, share, subscribe, all that kind of good stuff. And I will catch you guys next week for the next one.